wanted to try and capture was your history, because it's so interesting. Because you were born when?
1920.
1920, making you 90.
5 Jubilee Terrace,
Yeah,
Prince Rock, Plymouth.
really, that's where you were born. Yeah, so that's maybe your first memories of Plymouth.
Oh yes, I remember Jubilee Terrace very well.
Were there a lot of you living in a small house? Or?
Yes, there was, Jubilee Terrace was a small terrace of 6 houses.
Mm-hmm.
We lived in number 5.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6 was the last house, and then after that was waste ground.
Oh, right.
But where we lived, the 6 houses in the terrace was in its own area. It had a wall at the end, it had a grass plot all the way down in front of all the houses. It had a wall at the bottom, and then over the wall was wasteland.
Is that where you used to play?
And that's where we used to play there, yeah.
So you had a couple of older brothers?
Yes. And these 6 houses were in this little spot where it had a pavement and then grass and then a big wall about 12, 14 foot high. And that was a road above overlooking our area.
Oh, okay. And that's where you came back to after you were born?
And that's where I was born then there.
You were born there?
I was born there in Jubilee Terrace.
And do you remember your mum's name? Elizabeth?
Harrison, yeah.
Elizabeth Clara Harrison, that's right. She was
Clara.
born in 1882.
Right.
In Limehouse.
In Limehouse, that's right. Well, her mother had a shop.
Yeah, in Limehouse.
In Limehouse, yeah. And my father lived in Bow.
So he was born in the sound of Bow Bells then?
Oh, he was born in Bow Bells, yeah. They were both Cockneys. Both.
Oh, were they?
They were both Cockneys, my parents, because they both lived in the sound of Bow Bells.
And your dad was Charles Francis George?
Charles Francis George, yes.
Because you're Sydney Robert George.
I'm Sydney Robert George, yeah.
Because his father was killed in a barge accident, wasn't he?
Yes, he was a lighterman working on the Thames on barges. And there was an ammunition barge was exploded and he was killed. And that's my grandfather.
That was your grandfather.
Yeah, because I never knew them.
Yeah,
of course.
yeah. Because the name Saunter, we think comes from the French.
Well, we think so. Yeah, we think it was the Protestant group of people.
The Huguenots.
The Huguenots. When they moved to England, one section of them went to Rye. In Sussex, and we think that's where our family came from there. But we went back actually to where these Huguenots lived, and we couldn't find any gravestones with the name Saunter on.
That's right. You went back with your
Which
cousin
Uncle Charlie.
Charles
Uncle Charlie and I
Saunter.
went back.
Yeah.
To try and find out our route, because we thought it was from a family called Saunter.
Oh, yes, Saunter.
Yes,
Which
Saunter.
means no land, landless.
That's right, yeah.
Because what's really...
Without land, that's right.
What's interesting is that the name Saunter also belonged to the Plantagenet royal family.
Oh, it did, didn't it?
Born
Yes,
in
that's
Le
right.
Mans.
It was King
John.
King John, that's right.
Richard the Lionheart's brother was called Jean Saunter. And so all the people who worked for him would have been called Saunter as well.
Right,
So
right.
you may be coming from a royal family, you never know.
I don't think so.
Well, that's why we always say when we go back to France, we're really just returning home. You're just returning home. So Limehouse, your mum and dad met, and then why did they go to Plymouth? Do you know?
Yes, because the First World War, my father was a barge builder on the Thames, and of course he got called up for the Navy, and he was sent to Devonport, to Devonport Dockyard, and so my dad and mother moved to Plymouth,
So you had a house full then, because you had your oldest brother,
Yes.
Charlie.
Yes. Charlie. It was Charlie, Bert, myself, and Eleanor.
Eleanor was your youngest sister.
She was the youngest, yeah. Well, I was born in 1920. Bert was born 1915. Charlie was born in 1913.
Right.
The World War started in 1914.
That's right.
And that's why Dad was sent to Devonport to join the Navy.
So did he disappear on a boat then, did he?
Well, I wasn't born then,
Of course, yeah.
because I was born in 1920.
Yeah.
Uh,
So do you remember your dad being around when you were young, when you were 5, 6, 7?
yes,
He used to bring you home.
he was always away at sea.
He was always away at sea.
I don't remember him at home much. And he was away for 2.5 years at one stage, because he was sent to China on the China station, and they were away for 2.5 years.
That's right,
from
he
home.
was. And actually you wrote to the Ministry of Defence and asked for your father's details on his service.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
He joined up in 1914 on the 5th of October.
That's right, he joined up in 1914.
And then he
and
rejoined.
that's why we all went to Plymouth.
That's right. And we've got a list of the boats that he was,
That
on.
he sailed on, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was on the Europa in Greece for the Gallipoli campaign.
Oh, the Gallipoli campaign, yeah.
And he was on the HMS High Flyer.
High Flyer, well, that's when he went to China.
Yes, well, that was at the West Africa station,
Oh,
and then the East Indies. And you're right, but he was also based at Queenstown in Ireland on HMS Colleen.
I don't
You didn't
remember
know that. But you're right, he went up on the China station on HMS Kinsha, and that was a river gunboat.
The river gunboat, that's right.
Based at Shanghai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was away for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well. And he was based on the HMS Eagle as well, which was an aircraft carrier which was later sunk in World War II.
Yeah, what was the aircraft carrier?
The Eagle.
The Eagle, that's right. He was on the Eagle, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So he did. He was actually awarded a long service and good conduct medal.
Yes, yeah.
And he was also mentioned in dispatches.
In dispatches, my dad was, yeah.
He was, yeah, for standing by the ship.
It was in Halifax Harbour in where is that?
In Canada?
No.
California?
No.
No?
No. It's on the west side of America.
Oh, yeah.
Near
the Hudson.
Jamaica and
down near. Oh, yes. Okay, down near. Yes, because it says here he went down to the West Indies. So.
That's right, to the West Indies.
But in fact, he got his mention when he was on the HMS M30, which was a large gunboat, a monitor armed with heavy guns.
Yeah.
He was wounded, wasn't he, in the hand?
Yes, he was. Oh, that was a different time, though.
But that was at the Admiralty when he was.
Yes, he was shot in the hand. Yeah.
Shot when somebody was training with a pistol.
They were playing with a gun, and he was walking through the office, and he got shot in the hand. Yeah.
I suppose he told people.
That's the only war injury he ever had.
Okay. So, 10 years after you were born, your mum died.
Yes. Yes, I was 10. That's right. I remember that. And my dad took my sister Eleanor to London, and she stayed with his sister, Clara, who was married to a baker. Sid Baker was her husband, and Sid Baker was paralysed. He was in a wheelchair. And then Dad took Eleanor up there to stay with them, and then when he came back, he put me on a bus and sent me up to stay with my Uncle George.
All the way to London at 10?
He was, yes.
On your own, on a bus?
On a bus, yes. And my Uncle George and Aunt Ethel lived in Bowcommon Lane. And he had a grocer's shop and a hardware store opposite one another. Grocery shop on one corner, hardware store on the other. And his son, Alfie, ran the hardware store, and him and his wife ran the grocery store. And I lived with them.
And you helped in the store?
Hmm?
Did you help in the store?
Well, I used to have to deliver people's food on a trade bicycle.
And you were 10?
Customers deliver their food. I carried a big, they used to have eggs in big...
In a crate?
Yeah, in big frames.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe 40, 60 eggs. And I had that on the front of a bicycle, and I used to have to drive that to the various places.
You must have been good at cycling then.
Well, I was only 11 years old.
Amazing. Because later you cycled quite a bit, didn't you? You were good at cycling because you cycled with your brother Bert to London
well,
and back.
that's when
You bought a
Dad married
tandem.
again, and I went back to Plymouth to live.
So how old were you when that happened?
12.
12.
Yeah,
And
I
that was
12.
the mum you remember, really?
Yes, and of course, there I had two stepsisters, of course.
What were their names?
Winifred and Gladys. Lorums. They were
Lorums.
Lorums, yeah.
And your mum?
And Dad married.
Alice.
We lived in Jubilee Terrace, number 5. Number 4, Jubilee Terrace, lived the Wakems.
Mm-hmm.
And the Wakems were all usually had come down from Exeter. And Mrs. Wakem's sister lived in Exeter. And her husband had died as a result of being gassed in the war. And she came down to Plymouth on holiday, and Dad married her.
Ah.
And so then I had, this happened whilst I was in London, of course. When I came down, I had two stepsisters.
That
then.
must have been a bit of a shock.
Well, it was, yeah. Because I knew I had Eleanor, of course, as my own sister, and then two new stepsisters,
Yeah.
Winifred and Gladys, Lorem, yeah. And
Excellent. Okay, so did they bully you? Because you used to have a go at them if they touched your bugle.
well, I was in the boys' brigade. I was in the boys' brigade, and I used to have a bugle, and I used to have to clean my bugle, and I would give them. If they picked the bugle up after I cleaned it, they would get into trouble.
Because they told me you had a Cockney accent when you came back from Bow.
Oh yeah, I guess
You used
I
to call
did,
them
yeah.
pesky girls.
Yeah, because I'd been in London for 2 years then. Yeah.
But they were happy times, I guess. You
Oh,
didn't have a
yeah.
lot of money, but
Yeah, no, we didn't have a lot, but they were good. They were good times. Yeah.
and
So
you,
we all lived together then down in Plymouth, and then we moved from Jubilee Terrace to
Orchard Road.
Orchard Road. Yeah, Orchard
Remember
Road.
the number?
Beacon Park.
Number 60.
64. 64 Orchard Road. We
That's
lived.
And that was your family home until a couple of years ago.
Yes, that's right. And I sold in the last few years.
Mm.
Yeah, because Wynne lived in it for 60 odd years.
Mm.
Wynne did.
Mm. It must have been a lot of fun having a big family, even though you all had to share rooms and.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because there was, of course, Charlie had gone, my eldest brother.
Mm.
Bert lived at home in Orchard Road. Wynne, Glad, and Ellen and myself.
Because Charlie's story is an interesting one, your oldest brother Charlie.
Right.
Because he went back to try and rescue his family from Jersey, didn't he? Do you
Right.
remember
Well,
that story?
I'd say he went to Jersey when he was quite young.
Mm.
When I say young, he was in his 20s, I guess.
And he joined the Navy or the Air Force?
No. He just went to Jersey and worked. In fact, he was a taxi driver.
Mm-hmm.
He used to run a taxi in Jersey.
But then when the Second World War broke out,
then he came over.
he came over and he signed up, didn't he?
Yeah, he came over and joined the Air Force.
Joined the Air Force.
Yeah.
And he went back to try and get Auntie Phyllis.
Yeah, and he got caught.
And he got captured.
Yeah. Because he went over in uniform, you see.
Mm.
And of course, while he was there, the Germans went into Jersey.
Mm. So he spent the World War...
Or in a German prisoner of war camp.
Mm. But you often said to me you thought it was probably tougher for Auntie Phyllis and the boys, Brian and Terry and Barry.
They were very badly off in Jersey. There was no food there for them. He used to send food to them.
From Stalag...
Yeah,
Stalag 14, was it, where they did the iron horse, the wooden horse? He
Yeah.
was on that camp.
Yeah.
He was working in the kitchens.
Yeah, he was a cook.
Mm. and he used to send food back
to
his family
Jersey,
in Jersey.
to them in Jersey, yeah.
It's a very tough time. Mm. And your brother Bert, Uncle Bert, he had polio, didn't he?
Yeah, he got polio when he was about 7 years old.
Mm.
Wasn't born with it.
Mm.
Got heat stroke
Mm.
out on the moors, on Dartmoor, and developed infantile paralysis in one leg.
Didn't stop him cycling with you, though.
No.
You went and bought a tandem.
Didn't stop him doing anything. He used to swim because he could only swim with one leg, you see. His left leg was useless.
So you cycled quite long distances?
Well, then we joined a cycling club, yeah.
Mm.
And he used to ride a fixed wheel bike because he could only pedal with one leg. And the other leg was in an iron that fitted behind on a little bracket which held it back, so he pedaled with one leg.
Yeah. But there
And
was
then we
another
bought a
member.
tandem, of course.
You bought a tandem.
Yeah.
But you cycled during the war to your sister's wedding, didn't you? Because you were in the Home Guard and you weren't allowed any petrol for a car.
Yeah, yes. Oh, I cycled quite a bit, and I was in Bath in the Home Guard.
Mm.
And of course there was no travelling in England.
Where were you working, in Bath?
I was in Bath in the Admiralty.
That's why it was a protected profession.
Yeah.
What were you doing in the Admiralty?
I was an engineer,
Mm-hmm.
a marine engineer working in the Admiralty.
So you must have left school quite young then, Dad.
Oh yes. Well, when was that then? That would have been...
You left school at about 14.
No.
No?
Older than that.
Older.
Yeah.
Because you came back to school in Plymouth when you left London. Because the family lost quite a few of people in the war. The family lost quite a few people, didn't they? Because Auntie Gladys's husband was killed in World War II. Gordon.
Oh, Gordon.
Was killed on the Mediterranean convoy.
Gordon Gent, yeah, her husband.
And Auntie Wynn's husband,
And,
Bill Strong.
Bill Strong, yeah.
He was killed shortly after.
He was killed on the Russian convoys.
On the convoys to Archangel.
Yeah.
So both your
the ship
sisters
that
lost their husbands.
he on was hit, and he was one of the 9 who died. The ship didn't sink; it just had a bomb on it, and he was in that area, and he was killed.
Very sad.
Very unfortunate.
Very sad. So you knew what it was, and I mean, Plymouth took quite a bombing, didn't it?
Plymouth did, yeah.
Do you remember being in Orchard Road when the bombs fell?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, Mother and I used to always under the table. Air raid sirens go every day because they were coming over for bombing the dockyard, you see.
So you had a chance to go to India, but before that you had a chance to go to Australia, because that's why you're called Sydney, isn't it? Because you had family who went to Australia?
Yeah, it was a family. Someone in the family went. One of the relatives, I don't know which one it was.
And you had to make a choice between going to Australia and going to stay with a friend who'd gone over and wanted you to join him on a sheep shearing station. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
But you decided to go to India instead, and you went with an engineering company.
Yeah, and I was trying to think of why I went.
Well, you were on the Brahmaputra. You were You were doing the barges, the tea barges.
Yeah, that's right.
So you ended up being a barge engineer as well.
Yeah, that's right. Because I was trained in the dockyard as an apprentice. You see, on boat building.
Was that before you worked on the Brabazon aircraft? Because you worked on aircraft.
Yes,
for a while.
that's right. How did I get into Filton? I had to, in order to get, I lived in Bath, and I went to Bristol, and I got a job as an engineer with Bristol Airplane Company. And I had to go before an Admiralty tribunal to leave the Admiralty to go into the aircraft
industry.
And that's how I did it. They because I was going into the aircraft industry, they said, okay, they needed building up. The shipping side was very strong, and they were very weak on the air side. So that's how I got a job with Bristol Airplane Company.
So did you work on the Spruce Goose?
No, I worked on the Brabazon, which was at that time being the largest civil aircraft being built at that time, in competition with the American one. They had built a very large aircraft for public, but it was a seaplane. And we built the Brabazon as a land plane.
So when you went to India, did you go by plane?
When I went to India, did I go by plane?
Or did you go on one of the big boats, the Chusan?
I went on a boat.
The Chusan?
To Bombay. And then by train from Bombay to Calcutta.
That must have taken some time.
2 days on the train from Calcutta to Bombay.
Because there were two big boats, weren't there, used to do the India run?
Oh, yeah.
Was the Arcadia?
The Arcadia, that was it. That was the name of the boat, the Arcadia, yeah.
And you came back on the Chusan?
I came back on the Chusan. Yeah.
So you met Mum in Calcutta?
That's where I met your mother, yeah, in Calcutta.
Do you remember seeing her for the first time?
Oh, yeah. I met her at a dance in those days, they used to, for the British people who worked in Calcutta, they had a club, and where they used to have dances and concerts and things like that. And that's where I met your mother, at a dance at this club one night.
Because she used to sing with a band, didn't she?
She used to sing with the band, yeah.
Ted Frankopoulos and the Blue Harmony Boys.
That's it, yeah, that's right.
So when you saw her, was she singing?
Oh, yeah. And I asked her to dance, you see.
And what did she say?
Yes, she said she would have a dance, and I got dancing, and then I used to go every week, and she used to sing, and I used to always ask her to dance, and then I took her out to dinner, and that was it.
That was it. That's how you met Mum.
There we go.
And her mum.
Yeah.
Because her dad had died when she was 10 as well.
Yes.
So you'd both lost a parent.
Yeah.
And her sisters?
Yeah.
Leonie and Gloria.
Leonie and Gloria, yeah. Yeah.
I've got some pictures.
Well, they all came to England.
And she said
yes, your mum. Yeah.
What's she wearing there?
She's wearing a sari here.
Did she wear a sari very often?
No. Occasionally, if we went out, she would wear a sari, yeah. Oh, that's a nice one, isn't it?
Is that
Must have been down in Turkey or Torbay.
No, that's taken in India.
Is it? In India?
You must have gone to a beach somewhere. Chowringhee, or was that in Bombay?
Oh, look at that.
You've got a moustache.
Yeah. Look at that. Oh, God. This was in India? I'm trying to think where.
Don't worry about it. It'll come back.
I'm trying to think where, because where would we go in India where we were on the beach?
You certainly went up to the hill stations while you were in India, up to Darjeeling.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me about seeing the Himalayas and seeing Everest.
Oh, well, from Calcutta, you have to go by the DHR, Darjeeling Highland Railway, or we used to call it the Don't Hurry Railway. And you used to have to go from Kalaguri up to Darjeeling, which it was a single track railway. And it had 2 trains on it, and when one train left Kalaguri and one train left Darjeeling, they would come down on a single track, and one would go off to a siding, and this one would pass it, and this one would come back and come down. Oh dear.
But then you brought Mum back to England and you got married.
Yes.
And you lived in North London.
We got married in Finsbury Park Registry Office.
Was it? Yeah, Finsbury Park?
Yeah.
Wow. And you lived just off Hedge Lane, off in Enfield, actually.
Yes,
For a
yeah.
while.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes, I got a flat. I'm trying to think of.
But you didn't stay there long, did you? Because you went
No.
back to Plymouth and you introduced Mum to the family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was born, but I was born in London, wasn't I?
You were
before
born in London, yeah. You were born in,
Do you
in
remember?
Crouch End,
In Crouch End at
Yeah.
the Alexandra
Alexandra Nursing Home.
Park Palace Nursing Home. That's right.
Mm.
Were you there when I was born?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
You weren't there for the birth, because in those days
No,
chaps didn't go in.
no. But I was there, and I wasn't at the birth, but I immediately afterwards, because we had a flat. Andy and Mavis.
Andy and Mavis were your friends from India.
That's right. Well, they also had a flat in near Crouch End,
Yeah, Muswell Hill.
and I was there when I won that day at actual birth, and I was there when
So you took me back to introduce me to your mum and dad
down to Plymouth.
down
yeah.
in Plymouth.
Yeah,
But then you got the chance to go overseas and work again, didn't you?
yeah, and I was trying to think of how that happened.
You were offered a chance to work in Bahrain
The Bahrain, that was
with
it.
Bapco,
With Bapco, that was it.
the petroleum company.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's where I went. Yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately, and Mum did suffer prejudice being Anglo-Indian or
Yeah,
Eurasian.
Yeah, being Eurasian. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, for example, when you met her in Calcutta, if
Yeah.
you were at the British club,
Yes.
she wasn't allowed to come in and wait
Oh
for
no,
you.
she wouldn't allow to come into the club. No.
She used to have to wait outside.
Yeah. Well, it was a disgraceful business, wasn't it?
Mm. And in fact, you fell
And-
out
and
with
that-
your company
That's
when
right.
you said you wanted to marry Mum because
Yeah.
they said they didn't want you to marry
No.
somebody of mixed
a
race.
local girl.
A
No.
local
no.
girl. So you told them,
What they could do.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, came back to England. And then when Bapco took you on in Bahrain,
Yeah.
Mum went back to India with me because by
That's
then she'd
right.
had enough of England, hadn't she?
Right.
Yeah, you tried to bribe me with a teddy bear.
That's right. I brought you a teddy bear. That's right.
And Mum says I grabbed the teddy bear and ran. So you
dear.
brought us back to England. We lived in North
Yeah.
London,
Yeah.
in Crouch End again,
Yeah.
with Mrs. Diamond.
With Mrs. Diamond. That's right. She was our landlady.
Yeah. And you worked...
Now, where were we living then? That was in
Oh, well, that was just off Crouch End.
Crouch End, yeah.
Well, first of all, actually, we stayed with a Polish
That's
family.
right, the Veronicas.
The Veronas.
The Veronas, yeah.
The Veronas.
Yeah.
And he'd been with the Free Polish Forces.
That's right.
And he liberated his wife
yeah.
from was it Auschwitz or Belsen or one of those?
One of those
Mm.
from
Because they had
Some-
2 children, Marshy
That's right.
and something, Trelinka or something like that. But
Yeah, boy and a girl.
a boy and a girl who'd been affected because she had been, the mum had been given injections while she was in the camp.
That's right, yeah.
Alma Road, you lived.
Alma Road.
That's it. Mm. But
Number
after,
7, Alma Road.
That's right. Mm. But then you must have joined Caltex in Knightsbridge,
Yes,
who later moved to Burlington Arcade, behind Burlington Arcade. But then you and Mum decided to buy a house in Kent.
that's right.
Yeah. Bought your first house.
43
33. 33 Edgebury.
Edgebury.
That's
Yeah,
it. And you used to go up on the train to
Yeah.
Caltex.
to Caltex, yeah.
Yeah. For many years, in fact, and until I was 10.
That's right, yeah.
Mm. And that, do you remember that winter? That very bad winter. It was 1972.
Oh, we had a very bad, one year, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it 72? No, it was before that, wasn't it? 62.
62.
It was a lot of snow, and you got fed up, and they offered you a chance to go overseas again.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Although before that, you'd gone back to Bahrain for a year,
that's right.
and they wouldn't let Mum live with you on the British camp.
That's right, yeah.
I was 5,
Yeah.
and so her cousin came to stay. Do you remember her name? Came to live with us in Chislehurst while you were away. Auntie Pearlie.
Oh, Pearlie. Yeah, that's right.
So she
And
came.
she went to Australia.
She did in the end. She went to Australia with her family.
Yeah.
But you went to Bahrain
Yeah.
and they'd said that you could have Mum in a house, but then when the chap who's
Wouldn't have let us go into that particular house.
because he was South African and
Yeah,
he
yeah,
objected.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So Mum had a lot of prejudice to deal with,
Oh,
really,
absolutely.
and yet she was such a
She was such a nice person.
an intelligent,
Oh,
well educated.
well educated, better educated than most of these clowns that,
Mm.
God.
But when you went to Libya, it was a very different kettle of fish, wasn't it? Because it was mainly Americans.
Yes, that's right. That was the difference.
Because you were transferred from Caltex
The Caltex
to Amasis,
Amasis, that's
which
right.
was the American
Yeah,
overseas oil company.
American branch. Yeah.
And they didn't have the same prejudice that,
No.
that Mum had found in Britain.
No, they didn't, no.
Mm. You had a lot of very happy years in Libya.
Oh, yes, we did. Yeah,
Had a beautiful villa,
lovely.
the Villa Mignon,
Mignon, yeah.
with its own beach.
Only then we had our own beach, yeah.
Tell me a bit about your neighbours, because 2 of them still write to you, don't they? George de Costa, who was like my godfather,
Right.
he lived next door.
He was our neighbour.
With his wife. Do you remember
Yeah.
her name?
Yes.
Frankie de Costa. Frankie de Costa, do you remember her?
Frankie, of course, Frankie, yes.
And they had 2 boys.
They had 2 boys and 4 dogs.
And 4 Dalmatians.
Dalmatians they had, yeah.
And then behind them were your good
Couplands.
friends, the Couplands, the
Couplands,
Canadians, yeah. And then next to them were the Westcotts.
Westcotts, that's it.
Marie and Cy Westcott.
Maria and the little boy.
Richie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he works for Fidelity now. And Cy, of course, you saw a couple of years ago as well, and he writes to you regularly.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. He lives in Connecticut now.
And Richie worked for Fidelity,
That's right.
I wonder if he still does.
Yeah, he's retired now.
Eh?
He's semi-retired now.
Is he?
Yeah. Because I used to go and babysit him, but I was scared of the dark too, so I used to take our dog. Do you remember her name?
Oh, God. Kimberly.
Kimberly. She was a big dog, wasn't she?
Lovely dog she was.
So they were happy years in Libya.
Yeah, they were.
Very special years.
We had some good times there.
We were evacuated from Libya twice.
Yes,
Once was the Arab-Israeli War,
that's right. Yeah,
and then the second time
was
Colonel Gaddafi.
Gaddafi. took over.
Took over. That was a difficult time because you had to close up the house and
That's right.
escape over the Tunisian border and have the dog put to sleep, have Kimmy put to sleep. That was difficult.
Don't remember much of that, actually.
That was a hard time for you.
Yeah.
You came back to London and you weren't very well for a little while. It was very stressful that time for you.
I went where?
You came back to London, to the Caltex office.
Oh, yes.
And then they offered you a chance to go overseas again.
Yes.
To Singapore.
That's right, to Singapore to start with.
Mm. And Mum worked in what they call the spastic school. Do you remember that? At Newton.
The spastic school, yes. Oh, yes, I remember that. In Singapore.
Yeah, at Newton.
We lived in a flat and the school was right there.
And you used to go down and help sometimes, didn't you?
That's right. And Mum used to go down there.
That's right.
And work.
Mm. But you didn't spend long in Singapore because then Caltex moved you to Caltex Pacific Indonesia.
Indonesia.
And
now,
we
I
went out.
don't remember going there.
Do you remember going to Mumbai?
Mumbai, yeah, I remember Mumbai, yeah, of course. But I don't actually remember moving.
Moving there.
No.
Well, first of all, we went into the house that belonged to an American family who were on holiday.
That's right, for a while, because there was no room for
us. Because they were building new houses, weren't they?
Right, now whose house was that?
You know whose house that was.
Bob Moore's.
No. Shirley and Dean.
Goff.
The Goffs.
The Goffs, that's right.
That's right.
We moved to the Goffs' house, yeah.
And that's how you started up a lifelong friendship with Shirley and Dean.
Dean, yeah. Yeah.
And their children.
Yeah.
Thad and Holly, Marsha and Tim.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. That's right. We moved into the Goff's house, yeah.
So
Because they were on vacation.
That's right. And then you got your own house with Mum.
Yeah.
Out on a peninsula poking into the jungle, remember?
Yeah, yeah. That's
and
right.
you had some happy years at Mumbai.
What's the name of that house that we had?
I just think it just had a number, Dad, to be honest. I don't think it had a name. But do you remember when you were in Mumbai, you used to have to fly back to Singapore to bring your rice and your meat? And
oh, yeah, all our food.
Mm.
Yeah, either by boat or by plane.
By plane. It was a very small plane, the company
plane. That's right, yeah.
A Fokker Friendship, do you remember?
Yeah, that's a small Fokker Friendship. Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
But you travelled round a bit, didn't you? You went to Bali and you went to Jakarta to see the DeCostas. Who
Oh, we did, yes.
moved
That's
to
right,
Jakarta.
yeah, we went, yeah.
And then
And we went to Goa.
Yes, that's, yeah.
We made a trip to Goa, yeah.
Yeah. And then you were transferred to the Persian Gulf or the Arabian Gulf, to Bahrain, to
Back to
Bakko.
Bahrain, yeah.
And this time they let Mum go with you, didn't they? Because
Yes.
by then times had changed.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So you finished your working life in Bahrain.
In Bahrain, yeah.
And of course I'd married Brian by then and gone to work for the Bahrain National Oil Company.
That's
so
right, he worked for Alba.
He worked for Alba, the aluminium smelter.
That's it.
I worked for the Bahrain National
You
Oil
worked
Company.
for the National Oil Company.
And you worked for Bapco,
and
the
I worked
petroleum
for,
company.
And I was
so.
with Bapco, yeah.
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 And that's where, of course, I had Tanya and Rissy.
Yes, that's it. Both in Bahrain.
Born at the Bapco Awali Hospital in the desert.
Yeah, in the Wali Hospital.
Because you and Mum...
Which one? One was almost born in the car. Who was that?
That was Tanya.
That was Tanya, yeah. We only
In a
got
hurry.
there in time, didn't we?
Yeah. And then you and Mum decided to retire somewhere warm.
Yes, that's right.
So you bought a flat.
Where did we go then?
You went to Fuengirola.
Fuengirola in Spain.
Yeah. You had a flat in Los Boliches.
Los Boliches.
You remember that?
Yes,
You had a
I
few.
do. I remember that, overlooking the farm.
That's right. Yeah. So you had some good years in Spain, didn't you?
Oh, we did, yeah.
Yeah, and lots of people
We
visited
enjoyed
you.
Spain.
Yeah, George
It was cheap
DeCosta.
living and it was nice people.
Mm-hmm. But in the end, Mum wanted to come back to England.
Yeah.
She was not feeling well.
Well, she wanted to be with...
And she missed her grandchildren, because by then we'd had Sophie as well.
That's right. You
'cause
see,
we'd come back
she
to
missed the
England.
children. That's why, yeah.
But it's a good thing you did come back, because you
It
moved
was.
in down the road, didn't you, to Brigadier Avenue, do you remember?
That's right, yeah, yeah.
And then Mum had had a heart problem, so she was in the right place, really. And
yeah, no, it was kidneys you had.
Eventually it was kidneys, but so you had some years in Enfield with us.
That's right, yeah.
With Brian and me, and of course you were around when I lost Brian.
Yes.
And you and Mum helped me a lot with the children.
Right. Yeah, when Brian passed away. Yeah.
And then when Mum got poorly, she came to me.
Yes.
And stayed with
you,
until she died.
I went off somewhere.
Well, you went to Auntie Gladys's funeral.
That was it.
Yeah, but you cared for Mum for many years while you were in Brigadier Avenue.
Yeah.
You looked after her.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when Mum died, you were packing your bag to go back to your house. Yeah. And I said, no point really, is there? You may as well stay with me.
Yeah, and that's what happened.
And that's what you did.
Yeah.
And you used to help me look after the girls, do all the school runs. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Living opposite Les and Anne, Brian's brother. Yeah. And their girls, Melissa and Lauren. So we've had some good years, didn't we?
We've had some very good years, yeah.
And you and I have had some good holidays.
Yeah.
But then I met Colin.
You met Colin.
Britton about 8 or 9 years later and married again.
Yeah.
And he wanted us to move closer to he left the RAF and he took a job at Cambridge University.
That's right.
Do you remember the name of the college? It has got the same name as you. Sydney Sussex.
Yeah, Sydney Sussex.
That's right. It. So we moved to a 6-bedroom house in Royston.
That's right, yeah.
Remember that? With his
That's
3
a
girls.
House, that was.
Yeah, Harry, Maddie, Flick, Tanya, Rissy, Sophie.
Yeah.
And who else was there? Your 4-footed friend, his dog, Herbie.
Oh, Herbie, yeah, the dog, yeah.
And we had a few years there, didn't we?
Herbie, yeah.
And that was when I bought the French house, La Loge.
Right, you bought La Loge during that period, yeah.
But sadly, the marriage didn't work out.
No.
And you and I had to be on the move again. we moved twice in 5 years.
Yeah.
And we came to where we are now.
Yeah, yeah.
To St Albans.
To St Albans, 82 Park Street.
Yeah, you weren't sure about the cottage at first, were you? Because you kept hitting your head on the front door. Remember that? But it's a nice little place.
Nice, yeah.
And
how long have we been there now?
We've been there since about 5 years now.
5 years, I would say, yeah.
And although Herbie left us.
Oh, yeah. He
sadly
took Herbie
Colin.
away, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he died. He died within a week.
Yeah.
He pined for us.
But we got adopted by something else, didn't we? Who sits on your lap all day?
Oh, the cat.
The flea bag. What's her?
Miss Hissy.
Miss Hissy, that's right. So she decided to throw her lot in with you. You got some bites, great. Let's get that on camera. She's got fleas, hasn't she?
Yeah.
But also a couple of other people came into our lives after we moved to St Albans. One of them was Grace Ripley.
Oh, Grace, yeah.
And do you remember?
No, we knew Grace before then.
But she'd never been on holiday with you, had she?
No, she hadn't. No.
So she was your Auntie Glad and Uncle Ed's neighbour.
That's right, yeah.
And a very good neighbour.
Very good, yeah.
So we used to take her on holiday with us to France.
Yeah.
And we had some good times.
Yeah.
And then a very important person came back into your life. That was your cousin Charles.
Oh, Charlie,
Bertram.
yes. After a long while.
You hadn't seen Charlie for many years, had you?
Hadn't seen him for, probably it must have been about, he would have been 18 or 19, and then 30 odd years.
Well, he was 19 or 20 when you last saw him.
Yeah.
And you first saw him again when he was 85.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, a long time. A long time. But you got on very well, didn't you?
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
And he used to come on holiday.
He loved to come with us.
To France. Yeah. And
he died whilst he was in France.
He did, didn't he, for your 90th birthday?
Gosh.
But we had some good times with him, and he was with us, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And you loved going out to France.
Yeah.
And of course, those special people, those granddaughters of yours, Tanya, Rissy and Sophie,
Right.
they come and see you a lot, don't they?
They do, yeah. The girls are very good.
Yeah. And now an extra person, Sebastian.
Sebastian, yes, the little fella.
Mm.
Yes.
You've been spending some time with him in the last couple of weeks.
He's growing away.
He loves it when you talk to him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He talks back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've had some good times.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very
happy
good
memories.
We've had a very good life, really.
Yeah.
Very good life.
And I thought it would be nice, especially all your reminiscing about your childhood, for Auntie Ellen's girls.
Yes.
Jill, because we lost Christine recently.
Right.
And Uncle Bert's boys, John, Philip and
Yeah.
Charles and their family.
Yeah.
And of course Brian,
And Brian.
your oldest brother Charlie's son,
Yeah.
and his
Brian,
brothers.
Brian and Yvonne.
Yes,
yeah.
and Tim and Phyllis.
Poor Tim's gone.
Gone. Yeah,
Yeah.
but Anna. But
John
also
is still
because Brian often has you to stay in the West Country, doesn't he? Brian and Yvonne. So you go back down.
Yes. Yeah.
And you get to go and see all the
Get to
places
see
you went
them. Yeah.
as
yeah.
a child.
Well, no, I'm not driving anymore. It's not going to be so easy, but
Well, we'll get you down there on a bus, just like you went to London on a bus
yeah,
when
we
you were
did
10.
like last time. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just stick your ticket
He
on.
come
your
and pick me up in Exeter.
That's right. Yeah. So more travelling still to France and our friends in France, down in the Loire Valley, and our good neighbours,
Yeah.
Albert and Brigitte, and
Yeah.
all those people who come and see you whenever you go.
Go. Yeah.
Yeah. So still lots to look forward to.
Yeah.
And certainly one of the things that everybody loves is when you sing along with us, because you like to sing. And I wondered if you'd sing Moon River with me.
Moon River. Okay.
Yeah?
Moon River,
wider than a mile, I'm crossing you in style someday. Oh, dream maker, you heartbreaker, wherever you're going, I'm going.